before anything actually starts, I need to, admit to something. This title was complete clickbait. You guys did fall for it. I don't think Mushroom Girl is actually in the right. But what I do think is that Graceful is an idiot.
It's like a book and it tells a story about someone getting essayed and having to go through therapy. I don't support manga that.
Wait, okay. So, no, but
That's my point. There's not more factors. The factor is she's underage and she can't give consent.
If you guys watch the Graceful Mushroom Girl debate, you might be a little confused, possibly, if you weren't critically thinking about it. But Graceful is a really stupid idiot who can't listen to anything. I bet that he'll watch this video like not even like a fourth of the way through because he didn't even finish Mushroom Girl's original video in the first place.
Well, first of all, fiction does affect reality.
Wait, do you guys hear that? It kind of sounds like I won the debate right there. What the fuck? It's kind of weird, right?
I said
but
that
you said no.
No,
You
I said it.
okay? I just won the debate right there. You just your whole point is that fiction does not affect reality,
No,
and now you just said you just claimed right there that fiction does affect reality.
No,
Thank you.
Did you watch my video?
Yes, I did.
Like,
I had to make a video on it. I literally put your video. I stopped at like 20 minutes because I don't care to watch the rest of the 10 minutes of you babbling on about fucking how pro-shipping is okay.
Have already committed crimes based on violent works of fiction, and I don't see any antis claiming that these works shouldn't exist. The first example that always pops up in my head when I think about this discourse is the Slender Man stabbing, a case where two 12-year-old girls attempt to murder their friend as a sacrifice to Slender Man.
Before he made like 3 videos and then a debate about what she was saying. How retarded is that? You need the full context before you can even talk about something. That's why people watch the entire videos of stuff. Plus, it's so that you can actually understand their stance instead of just brainlessly saying that this person is wrong. A lot of the time, Graceful doesn't even know why he's arguing against Mushroom Girl because he's a retard. Graceful just assumes that she's a weirdo, a pedophile, and everything, instead of someone who believes in absolute freedom of expression.
The thing is, my opinions on lolicons are not positive, but at the end of the day, if they're not being creepy towards real children, I could give less of a fuck. I'm just gonna ignore their existence, because it's not my business.
Graceful, am I yapping right now?
Power these days. Yeah, nigga, shut the fuck up.
Here's the thing too, I know that you care too. You do care about the words that I said in the comment section. This 10 subscriber channel, you do care about what I was saying because you still bothered to reply to what I was saying, and you still bothered to give your reasoning sometimes and your own input about what I was saying. If you truly didn't care, you wouldn't do anything like that, and you certainly will care that this video is out. So it's either your response to this video will be terrible because you won't watch the entire video, my entire breakdown of your own terrible points, which is what this video is, or you'll pretend not to care. You'll say, nah, didn't watch, not watching all of that. And I assume most Graceful fans are also not going to watch this entire video because they're also retards who didn't clearly critically think, and I'm insulting you guys right now, you who are Graceful fans. Because if you didn't actually critically think about the video, you're like, yeah, Mushroom Girl is wrong, Mushroom Girl is wrong. But you're not thinking about why exactly, and you discredit completely all of the arguments that she did actually make in the video. That's what this video is about. Talking about the arguments that Mushroom Girl made, well, explaining and breaking down point by point as to why Graceful was so bad at arguing his correct point. I agree with what Graceful was actually saying, and again, for retards in the back who couldn't piece it together, no, I'm not a pro-shipper, but that doesn't mean that I should blindly agree or support anyone that I agree with. If, let's say I agree with you about racism or something, if someone wants to argue against a racist who's very calm, kind of explainable points that you still disagree with, but they're still calm and doesn't like racism, is screaming, no, you need to kill a racist, then you're probably gonna look at that and be like, the racist is the smarter guy. But that's what this entire debate is, and Graceful is the guy who hates racists. If you can't tell, that's actually an analogy, Graceful, that is not bringing up something completely random to sidetrack. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Graceful, and those who watch the video, who are paying attention, also know what I'm talking about. Graceful will also try to claim that he was joking throughout this entire thing, when no, that's not true at all. There are barely any jokes, and he clearly is taking this very seriously.
You agree that you know, pedophiles, I get what you're trying to say, kind of,
But it makes the most sense to not support fucking children being drawn sexually.
well, here's the thing, and like
At one point, he screams like, "Yes,
Okay, I
won
just
the
won the
debate!"
debate right there.
Like a retard. And of course, you're supposed to be able to win and beat the points of someone who literally doesn't care about others that draw disgusting material. That should be an easy win, but somehow Graceful eats the L like crazy against Mushroom Girl. If you watch someone who's actually joking during a debate and doesn't care, like Moomin, for example.
I said this already. She thinks that clouding the video with evidence is going to do shit. It is a common sense argument, not an evidence one.
Oh, they're a pedophile and a bad person.
I didn't say that they're a pedophile.
So bad.
You're stupid as fuck. I didn't say that.
Giving an example.
I did not say that. Okay, autistic nigga. Like, she's
He does what Grace says that he did so much better. He's just laid back, doesn't give a fuck. He says so many slurs to piss off the people more. That's what he's doing. Graceful's not doing any of that. He's just saying the same points over and over and talking over her constantly. He is talking over her.
Alright, hey, can you look?
it stops becoming fiction. Like in your video,
Right, but
you said
my point is,
fiction isn't the issue. It's the fact that those
it is the issue. Right, but if they have an addiction, okay, it's a problem. It is. It's called, okay, feeding into an addiction.
All of you ate up the fact that she was just yapping or saying completely worthless information, even though she wasn't. Graceful just says that, and you guys believed it because you didn't listen. Again, if you couldn't tell, I'm not a fan of pro shipping or Mushroom Girl's stance, because she tries to take a logical approach to something that is inherently moral. Whether or not you want to judge someone because of what they draw, that's based on you and your own morals. It's not a logical thing. It doesn't mean that she's stupid because I agree with how she's thinking about it or anything like that, or that I'm going to discredit all of her words. I'm still going to hear her out because I am actually a person with an open mind that likes to hear other opinions. And at the end of the day, I mostly agree with Grace. For those in the back, again, who didn't hear me, I'm not a pro shipper. Oh yeah, Graceful, I almost forgot. If you're still watching up to this point, I'm not sure because you have a very small attention span and you... How am I an incel? I need to know that. Like, the definition of incel is someone who hates women because they can't get laid. That's what an incel is. So what did I do that was incelish in any of my comments? Disagree with you? Give me the definition of what you think an incel is. I assume that if Graceful even made it up to this point, which I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, because I already showed quite a few clips of him looking like a retard. I want to challenge you to not be like, don't care. And I also want to challenge your fans, the people who watched your video, to sit down and watch this one to see if they'll still have the same opinion after I critically thought about everything that you said. Because again, just because something is weird to you in this debate conceptually does not mean that the weirdo made bad points because they were weird, or was unable to defend their stance because they stuttered. Does that actually mean something to you? Seriously, think about that. What does that actually mean? Again, I think Mushroom Girl's a bit retarded, but I'll talk about that in the response that I make to Mushroom's video later, because this whole topic is very interesting and fun to me. And I intend to break down this debate literally point by point, full clarity, and there'll only be minor cuts. And I'll say when I cut something out and exactly the timestamp that I cut something out, if I remember. But for the most part, I'm going to talk about every single main argument that was said, every single small scuffle, and all of that, every single point that was made, all of that in this video, and that's why it's... Even if you agree with him, he still did this terribly. And for some reason, you guys all think that he's some genius or something like that, that owned Mushroom Girl, when that's probably the furthest from the case. Final thing for all you Graceful fans though, the ones that are still watching, assuming you can handle all of these insults, or I'm more than sure Graceful can't. I mean, look at how he fucking replied to me. He replied like a pussy. Okay, he was like, stop yapping, yapper. The fuck is that? It's so painfully clear that you're a retard. I do want as much hate on this video as possible, which is also why I posted this video in the Discord. Thank you who are watching from the Discord. And maybe if you're not a retard, you can like grow a little bit from this video and realize that, hey, you can agree with someone but disagree heavily with how they went about their stance. This is when the video becomes scripted, which is an anomaly for this secondary channel. I have fun doing things like this, and I'm very thankful that Graceful even decided to reply to what I said, even if it was retarded. That's actually why I'm deciding to make this video, because of how badly he replied. Here's what it says, or at least part of it. Despite me being pretty busy with other projects like animations or reviews on main, it's always great to get muddy and talk a little shit in an analytical, generally only sort of insulting way. For all the retards in the back who don't understand this yet, no, I'm not a pro shipper, and I'm not in the shipping community or whatever. I agree generally with Graceful's stance, and I'm making this video because Graceful made himself look like a clown, and I want to explain why exactly in incredible detail. Or again, for retards who still think that I'm on Mushroom's side when I'm not, I'll put it in brain rot speak for you. I'm gonna yap for like an hour extra or so about why Graceful is terrible about arguing his easy to make point. Have fun listening, as I intend to dissect the first 45 or so minutes of this video, and possibly the next if the video gets any small level of traction. And if you're completely disconnected from the situation, go on ahead and subscribe. I intend to randomly attack other creators who are small but still a good bit bigger than my main channel for fun background noise. Let's get into it. Again, before we really start, I've seen so much about how she's so silent or whatever before she speaks, or how she stutters. She's clearly just thinking. Don't pretend that when you're having a serious discussion, you don't think before giving an example or a complex statement by either being silent for a second or stuttering before you speak. I think that shows nothing. And if this isn't you, then most likely all of your arguments and discussions are just retarded screaming matches where nothing gets resolved and no opinions are actually changed. On to the dissection.
First of all, Lolicon being CP is technically true, but it's debatable. And the
But
reason
it's
why
not
I say
debatable
that-
because it's illegal.
No, I'm
Because it's
literally going
illegal.
to explain to you. Please let me finish. Lolicon, while it is technically considered illegal in the US, it is a law that is never actually enforced, and a lot of lawyers I've seen posts from lawyers, and in the video you covered, I show evidence for that by showing a lawyer who said that you are not going to get arrested for
Yeah, you're probably not
owning
gonna get
Lolicon.
arrested for it. But you
then
also gotta think it's feeding an addiction that's very, very bad.
121 to 202. You're probably going to get arrested for having this content. Since it's illegal, you probably won't, since it depends on what the content is. This argument is sort of an indirect start to the lolly subjective argument that Mushroom Girl believes in. Fucking weird. Even though Grace does show evidence of people being arrested for this, it doesn't change the fact that they didn't agree upon a definition for what exactly this content is before talking about it. When Grace says lolly, he's thinking of something very specific, kid, but Mushroom Girl sees it in a more complex way. There's immediately no clarification, literally 2 minutes in, and constant interruption from Graceful to get his correct point in before she can explain why exactly she believes what she believes in. As on a surface level, Mushroom Girl believes in things that literally need detailed explanation and clear definitions for what she's talking about that need to be understood by everyone for them to make sense. This is why Mushroom Girl is seen as someone who supports this content, because she takes a strange stance of neutrality to this content, talks about the nuance that's within it, and looks deeper into things nobody normal would. Grace understands none of this, and this argument comes back in full swing later in the debate.
And at some point, that fucking predator is gonna go out and do something.
Well, the predator's gonna do something no matter what the fiction is.
But it's feeding the addiction that's gonna happen sooner. And instead of no, you know what you're doing?
What am I doing?
You're supporting this shit, right? You're supporting this shit until something bad happens, and then you're like, no, we can put that to the side because the main idea is that it's just fiction. But in reality, it's a lot harmful than you think, and as you said, it is.
The shit you're talking about, that being like pedophiles harming real children, is where it stops becoming fiction. Like in your video,
Right, but
you said,
my point is, it's more than fiction. It's an addiction that is being fed into by artists, and that's why I say it is an addiction. That is an addiction. It's an addiction towards. It's a sexual attraction towards children. That's an addiction.
Yes, that's not.
That is an addiction. Watching child porn is an addiction.
I'm just confused now. Sexual attraction is not an addiction. Yes,
Right,
you can
but-
have an addiction to porn and
Yeah,
sex
and most pedophiles probably have an addiction to watching child porn.
The addiction isn't the issue. It's the fact that they're
It is
attracted
the
to
issue.
real
Right, but if they have an addiction and they're attracted to children, that's both an issue. Those are two fucking issues.
Well, but no, I'm just saying, why are we bringing up the blah 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 addiction when the addiction is
Okay.
the
It's a
what's
problem.
causing anything.
It is. It's okay. Feeding into an addiction is causing it to happen sooner. It's gonna happen sooner. Yes, it is. It's been.
I need evidence to prove this, and if you don't have evidence to prove this, then I'm not gonna listen to you, because
hold on.
You can't just make claims about people's brains and how people's brains work without showing any kind of evidence or even looking at any kind of evidence, because you're literally saying,
hold on,
trust me, bro. And
2 minutes, 2 seconds to 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Graceful, it's an addiction and predators will act on their urges sooner. Mushroom Girl, the problem isn't the addiction, it's the fact that they're pedophilic and they most likely do what they wanted to anyway. On a surface level, this makes sense, but when you actually listen to Mushroom Girl, she's also not wrong. I got more in depth on this, as this line of argumentation does come up again, but seriously, the main issue here is the fact that the person is a pedophile and they're engaging in this content, not that it's a presumed addiction. Whether or not a pedophile is addicted to lolly content doesn't matter here because they're still a pedophile, and that's the actual problem. Grace then changes his point to, no, those are both two issues, which is slightly different from him initially saying that it's the addiction that's the issue. He also continues to not give any evidence. These factors are a continual running thing for Grace. It's a pattern, and by the end of the video, you'll see it.
The thing is, I think that the issue with pedophiles abusing children isn't an issue with a porn addiction or a lolly addiction. It's an issue with a number of factors, and what those factors are you could look up.
Right, but one of those factors can be an addiction, though, can it not?
Well, I'd have to look that up.
But it's an obvious answer, though. It's like, if someone's indulging in content and they like that content, they're gonna want more.
I mean, not necessarily, because being
what
you don't necessarily have, no, let me explain, because you're not letting me fully explain my point, and I've been letting you fully explain what you have to say. But the thing is, pedophilia isn't caused or factored by some kind of addiction. It's because this person has urges towards wanting to have sex with real children. Because the thing is, with one of the issues with, like, saying that drawing children and fictional children that don't exist in sexual situations being bad, one of the issues with saying that is harmful is that fiction, with the lines of age, when it comes to fictional characters that don't exist, it's very difficult to put a line there, because you can say a character is any age, but you can't do that with real minors, because the reason why doing that with real minors is bad is because they are not able to fully understand they're not able to fully consent to, like, this adult who is much more physically, mentally stronger than them. But when people are consuming this in fiction, there could be 101 reasons why they're listening to this.
Can I make a point?
Sure.
Well, okay, so why doesn't the fictional version of a child have consent? Like, why do they not have consent?
4 minutes 42 seconds to 6 minutes and 58 seconds. Mushroom Girl, the addiction isn't why the pedophile is the pedophile, and it isn't the reason as to why they'll do what they're gonna do. It's many other factors, and there are many other factors when it comes to numerical age. God, this is an argument. It's insane. Oh my god. And there are many other factors when it comes to numerical age value of a fictional character. Graceful, the fictional versions of a child. Oh my god, it's such a bad argument. As she was explaining, the reason why a predator isn't black and white. It isn't as simple as, oh, they have an addiction and it'll be solved without this bad material. Because again, life usually isn't that black and white. And when we talk about the ages of characters in fiction, it also isn't that black and white. I talk about this more later in depth, as it's more talked about later, but factors for fictional characters, like if a character is even a human or magic or a million other things, can factor into whether or not this is okay. And Graceful never tackles any of them. He instead continues to believe that it's as simple as the character's age, when instead it should be about how a character is designed. Either way, I don't think that this line of argumentation is very strong for Graceful's side. With incredibly basic nuance, you can understand that just because the character Cell from Dragon Ball Z is 6, doesn't mean that it'd be weird for someone to draw an SFW of him, since not only look at his design, but he's also adult in mind. And he's an android, by the way. I think that's also important. Mushroom Girl should have brought up cases like this to strengthen her point, but it's one of the few missed points that she could have had in this completely worthless debate.
It's a fictional character. They don't exist.
But they're considered a minor.
No, they aren't, because they're not real.
You guys heard it, right? So lore doesn't matter. Lore doesn't matter. Even a fucking lolly is like 500 years old and it's not considered a child. And like that's the main point of why people think lolly's okay, because it's not really a child, but they're considered a minor, though.
But the character, first of all, the character doesn't exist. You can't. They're not legally considered a minor because they don't exist. They're not real. Second of all, no fictional character can consent because it's a drawing. It's a it's a drawing. It's an animation, whatever, and it's not like you can't. That character can't give consent because they don't exist. Like, and what you can say a character is any age. That's why there's the whole joke with 1,000-year-old lolly thing.
That's not a joke though. That's like an actual thing people call. Like
yeah, it's a thing.
It's disgusting.
It is a thing. It is a thing people do, and I know that is, but that's just kind of proves the point that character technically isn't a minor.
Yeah, but technically, but they look like a child on purpose to get people to get off on it.
But some adults look like children. That's
right.
Like,
and in my video, I made a point saying it sexualizes people who look like children, and it also sexualizes people who are children.
But sexualizing a fictional character doesn't automatically mean you're sexualizing the real life counterpart, because again, like, fiction doesn't automatically equal reality.
But it can.
6 minutes 58 seconds, 8 minutes 46 seconds. Why doesn't a fictional version of a minor have? Because they're not real. That's what Mushroom Girl basically said. What a stupid line of argumentation. No, these characters aren't citizens of any country on Earth because they're not real, and he talks about lore not mattering. Stories can literally have any lore as well. Let's take the anime Mushoku Tensei, I think that's how you say it. I don't know how to say it. Jobless Reincarnation, for example. Incredible anime, by the way. I suggest you check it out. Its lore is set in a medieval context and back in the past, and in this story, nobody really cared about who's a minor or not. So if you talk about lore or whatever, then in a story like that, Graceful would fully believe that anything minor-wise is fully fine, since nothing against the law is happening lore-wise. It's really dumb to consider the story's lore in most circumstances, as it varies heavily from story to story, and this is why. He also changes his stance slightly about how it's still weird if the character is designed to be a child, even if they're like 1,000 years old, when from the start it should have been clearly said that if a character looks like a child, then it's weird. That's the reason why almost nobody cares if you decide to draw Uraka or something from My Hero Academia in an NSFW context. It's because the design is important over all of these weird law-based arguments, and he sort of agrees with this but never really argues for that.
Quickly turn into reality. It can cause someone's urges to get worse, can it not? If someone is looking at lolly, it can cause their urges to get worse.
If someone has those urges, they are going to have those urges at the same level that they always do, because of mental illness. It's not some addiction.
But you brought up urges. You brought up urges, right? And if someone's indulging in content they know, like the fictional character's a minor and is jerking off to that shit, do you not think their urges are getting worse because they need to indulge? They need to indulge in that stuff so it goes away.
No,
and sometimes it doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't go away, because pedophilia is a mental illness. Mental illness doesn't just fly away.
So you don't.
How you get rid of pedophilia is you go through extensive therapy and shit like that. A pedophile, like a pedophile indulging in this content. First of all, not everyone who indulges in this content is a pedophile, because first of all, some of them are younger than 16.
Anyone who looks at lolly as an adult is a pedophile, okay? It's that simple. It's that fucking simple to understand that. And you think that's okay? You think that's okay?
No.
8 minutes 48 to 9:55 minutes. Mushroom Girl, urges don't get worse by engaging in strange material. Grace, yes they do. I agree with Mushroom Girl on how it's a mental illness and how the indulgence of strange material for the mentally ill would increase or decrease it to a certain extent. I equate this with looking at something normal. Everyone at least wants something normal, and indulging in that doesn't make you want it more or less, as if it's a stacking effect. Nobody just stops jerking off because they've seen enough material. The extreme consumption of material like this would make the consumer look for more and more extreme things until they end up in strange places like pro-shipping. I think it's more of a pipeline sort of thing as opposed to making your urges worse in most circumstances. Grace says nothing like this, and it simply insists that yes, it does make your strange urges worse, while also assuming she believes something that she doesn't, and in this debate has never said she believes in. I also say in most circumstances because if you look into what children who watch things like Elsagate content have said after they grow up a bit, is that they now do have weird fetishes and things that they like. In circumstances where you're being fed this sort of degenerate content at a very young age, it can leave an impression on you. But that impressionability quickly fades as you become older because you gain life experience and your brain gets bigger. If someone's a pedophile or incest freak, then they've probably always been that way or have always had those desires. This Elsagate effect isn't common, and that's why I say that I agree with her on this stance in most cases, but that's just how I see it. Graceful argues his point poorly, and this is no different from almost anything else he argues in favor for in the future. Of course grooming can happen, which is a normalization of subjects to someone else, and that's also why I semi-agree. It can even happen to anyone. It's not just limited to minors in case you didn't know, and that's why this is so damn complicated, but that's not what we're talking about. Grooming is a very specific process that can take months or even years, and Grace believes that this content will influence your mind just by you seeing it or by it simply existing. It's nonsense, and the point of people being influenced with content by grooming is never brought up, even though I think that's a solid counterpoint to what Mushroom believes.
No, I don't think that young children should be indulging with pornographic content, but it still happens.
But putting this shit out on like Twitter and stuff, right? If an artist puts that shit out on Twitter and knows there's minors on Twitter, don't you think that's weird?
Would that not apply to all pornography, regardless?
Yeah, I'm not, dude. I made a whole point on.
But, and also,
Twitter.
Wouldn't that also apply to sites like Pornhub?
Well, you have to be 18 plus to enter there, so.
Children lie about their age all the time.
Right, but you realize they're putting in laws now for it to get like ID'd and shit.
Well, still
what?
There's a lot of websites, like I can name a few. Toy House, I think, for Affinity. I'm not sure. I've never really been on that site. And stuff like that. They have, porn. They have porn on them that is allowed. But the thing is, if you make your age under 18, it will block you from that content, which is, and I like, it's like, whether porn in general should be on Twitter or whatever is a huge discussion. Everyone's made their own arguments for it, and I get both sides. But what's so special, by the logic you're giving, what's so special about specifically Lolicon when this is an issue with all pornographic content on the site?
Because other pornographic shit does not involve children. It doesn't have anything to do with children until it's lolly.
Well,
child.
That's not really the argument.
That is the argument, though.
10:01 to 11:55. Grace, isn't it weird to put specific weird stuff online where kids can see it? Mushroom Girl, doesn't that apply to anything adult in nature? What's so special about profic content? They don't stay on topic for too long, but Grace doesn't have much of a reply to Mushroom Girl equating it to simply any sort of adult material online. Kids will see it no matter what, and Grace just takes an unreasonable none of it is okay anywhere without taking into account Mushroom Girl's really weird nuance that must be understood before you can tackle any of her points and properly disagree.
Like, I understand if it's like a book and it tells a story about someone getting essayed and having to go through therapy.
What if it's a manga? Can I
I don't support manga that.
Wait. Okay. So what I'm getting is that if it's you're allowed to portray it in words, but if the second you
dude,
it's an issue. Because here's the thing: manga tells a story. Like mangas are.
But manga also has images that can.
So the issue isn't whether it tells a story or not. It's whether it's an actual image. And by the way, just like images of fictional children, can be considered CP technically.
It is considered CP though. Like, it's not technically considered CP, it is.
1201 to 1251. Grace, it's fun in a book, but not any other medium. Mushroom Girl, why not any other medium? I dislike this point because it says that it's inherently immoral to portray profic content in stories if they're not just words. There's a focus on pedophilic material, but this is debate about profiction in general. And since we're talking about profic content, does it make Berserkin a moral evil story that shouldn't exist due to the rape of Casca? Or should the coffin of Andy and Lele be banned for its incest? Why are visual mediums any different? And by his definition, the book Lolita would be 100% okay, as it's a tragic story directly about the main character Humbert, who's a pedophile that kidnaps and assaults a child numerous times. The book's far more complicated than that, but that's an extremely different discussion, and things portrayed in Lolita are far worse than most things I've seen visual medium-wise despite being a book. And besides, books use words and descriptions to create images in your head. That's why Mushroom Girl rebutes with the fact that even if pedophilic content was in a book, then it'd be illegal too. What's actually important about portrayal of evil content in stories is the context and tone they're provided in, and how it's handled. For example, if the rape of Casca from Berserk was portrayed as a good thing that had no consequences as opposed to a genius plot-relevant tool that not only makes the audience immediately hate Griffith, but also as a way to showcase why Gus became the person he becomes after the Golden Age, then I'd understand it in that sense. Or if the incest of Andy and Lele was supposed to be a positive element as opposed to an additive to the creepy, abusive nature of the relationship between Andrew and Ashley, then I'd understand that too. Even if these were true points that he could use, this would still be a highly flawed argument, as instead of saying no story should have controversial subject matter, he just says that only written books can. But instead, he realizes that he's beaten on this really strange point of it's fine in a book, but not in a visual medium, and the topic changes again. He may say that this was a joke in defense, assuming that he actually got this far in the video and didn't immediately leave 3 minutes in since I was yapping too much. But there's nothing funny about it, and he doesn't push this ideal anymore, as again, he changes the topic immediately afterwards.
Well, I'm saying technically because you're not gonna get arrested for it.
Well, it's okay. You can jaywalk. Is that still illegal?
Yeah, you can.
Is that still illegal?
Yes. Yeah,
so it's not technically illegal. It is illegal.
No. Yes, it being technically illegal and illegal is basically the same thing. I'm just saying technically to explain that, just to kind of show that you're not going to get arrested or you're not going to get actual legal trouble for it.
But there's been many cases where it has caused people to get in legal trouble for it. I literally showed 2 sites where it tells about something about this person getting like in legal trouble and going to jail.
99.999% of the time.
I don't think that's an actual statistic though.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, my point is most of the time it's not going to be an issue. And here's the thing, for something
I just looked it up. It took 2 seconds to look this up. You could be arrested or in charge with a crime if you possess any lolicon.
Oh, yeah, if you are already charged, the legal system might tack that on because the legal system fucking sucks.
The legal system sucks for not wanting people to have CP on their hard drive? What?
And apparently that's only an issue when you're already being... It's a weird...
Since lolicon depicts an identifiable minor engaging in sexually explicit situations, it violates federal law. In other words, you could be arrested and charged with a crime if you possess any lolicon.
But that doesn't happen.
But that does happen.
Technically, the law might. Technically, the fucking.
You think there hasn't been a person who's been arrested for this?
I mean, maybe once or twice, but.
It's probably more than once or twice.
People why is if lolicon is so illegal, why is it so easily available online?
1253 to 1501. Mushroom Girl, you're probably not going to get arrested for having this content on your computer. Grace, yeah you will, because it's illegal and has happened before. Despite Grace showing a few articles where people did get arrested for owning this disgusting content, Mushroom is still both right and wrong. You probably won't get arrested for this since there are more pressing matters and crimes like actual real children being harmed as opposed to some basement freak owning lolicon content, but you still can, and it has happened. Grace literally shows that, and Mushroom flips between maybe and you can't be arrested quite a few times. I'd give this specific point to Grace.
Like, you can literally look it up and find it so easily on fucking Twitter, on, like, fucking wherever. Like,
Do you,
it is,
alright,
like,
do you know how easy it is to obtain child itself? Very easily.
Not very easy.
And
how do you know that?
because there's sites like fucking, what's Telegram?
Yes,
where you can obtain that easily as fuck?
There's dedicated sites for it because it is, you need to...
There's dedicated sites? Yeah, Telegram is not a dedicated site for anything. It's a fucking chatting site. People go there to get fucking child. And you wanna know how I know this? Because I've seen people catch people on Telegram wanting to buy child.
Well, yeah, maybe, but, like, do you ever see it on fucking public social media sites? Ever?
What?
Ever? Real CP of real children?
No,
like,
because that's not like a mainstream thing that people post because it's likely to get taken down.
Yeah, exactly. It's likely to get taken
But
down.
if you're on a site that you realize there is sites out there that have that stuff, right?
Yes, absolutely. But it is so, like, you have to, it is pretty difficult still compared to finding lolicon defined. You want to know why? Because the cops actually give a shit about real children being harmed.
Right, but you're also pushing a narrative that it's okay to sexualize children just because it's fictional.
But if the children are real, okay, no, here's
if the children aren't real, okay, so what's your point?
Okay,
just because it's not real, it doesn't make
1501 to 1641. Mushroom Girl, if this content was such an issue or treated as actual CP, then why is it easy to find? Grace. Oh, why would you say that? That's basically what he said. Why did he say CP's easy to find? Alright, whatever. That's out of context. That's kind of out of context and a very broad generalization of what he was saying during that minute, but anyway, I just like this line of argumentation as this debate has been so far mostly centered around legality and morality as opposed to what everyone else thinks. But if you think for half a second, Grace is definitely wrong, and you don't even need to think about this with proof for really any evidence at all. A lot of people in general treat a cartoon as seriously as a real thing. Of course, you'd have to go to stranger places than the simple public web or Twitter in general to find a real disgusting material. Are there places where you can find this stuff on the clear web? Of course. There are Twitter accounts that sell this content, as talked about by YouTuber Jax 2 years ago, and the new YouTube bots people have been bringing attention to. But even if Grace brought that up, that still doesn't beat her point. Her main point is that since nobody's being hurt in the creation of this disgusting content, then people care less to do anything actionable against that. And while that is true, that doesn't mean people don't find it disgusting overall. Logically, of course, the police are going to care more about real cases of this terrible stuff more, and that's why Mushroom Girl doesn't care, because it doesn't directly harm anyone. Even though this argument completely takes the morality out of this overall morality-based topic. Grace's morals, in my opinion, are in the right spot, just how he goes about each and every argument is flawed since Mushroom Girl is better at explaining her points and rebutting.
No, I'm gonna explain exactly how this works. So, what happens is that, and this is with a lot of things, that it needs to be put in front of a judge and jury, and that judge and jury have to subjectively look at this piece of art and say, does this look enough like a child for it to be considered CP? And they have to subjectively decide.
Do you actually think it's...
Yes or no.
Do you actually think that's like that?
Yes, because that's how the law works.
No, they don't.
That's why people have to say alleged for a lot of things, even
if they find it on someone's fucking hard drive, they have like a terabyte of fucking lolicon, they're gonna get arrested and they're gonna have to go through that shit, which is disgusting.
They're going to be arrested temporarily so they can go to court and they can discuss it if it finds out that actually, this stuff might actually not be lolicon, or, I mean, it can be lolicon but not CP, but that's a whole thing. This actually isn't really CP because of this, that, and that, they're gonna let them go. People get arrested and don't immediately get jailed after getting arrested. That's not how it works.
I didn't come here to debate the fucking justice system. No. Okay, I came here to debate that you're pushing a narrative that sexualizing minors is okay.
Oh my god, I'm trying to make a point here. So, So the judge and the jury has to look at this piece of art and say either it is CP or it's not. Now, they do this based off of subjective factors because that's kind of just how art works. And, and we don't have much to go off of when it comes to that because, like I said, it is very rare that people are getting arrested just for owning lolicon. Most of the time they care more about, actual, crimes that harm people. And sometimes the lolicon stuff might be tacked on, but, it's usually never the main priority.
Your point is it's not much as a problem as other things.
No, because my point is when it comes to real CP, there is only two factors. One, is it considered pornography? That is a pretty easy, thing for a judge and jury to answer. And two, is the person involved under the age of 18? If they click both of those boxes,
I mean, that would be considered child porn, yeah. I don't know.
Yes, and it is, no, I'm trying to explain that it is, yes, that makes it objectively, CP because it clicks those two very straightforward boxes. And it just shows that with lolicon, it is so subjective that, it's basically based on the judge and the jury's subjective opinion, because if a character is, let's say, 12, but they look old, they look a little bit older, like they could be, 18 or 19, and also, then it's not going to be considered CP. But if the character is also 16, 17, and they look like, it's like a 16, 17-year-old, they are on the verge of adulthood, they look like they could be young adults, it is likely, even if the character is canonically a minor, it's probably not going to be considered CP, because really the only way you can consider piece of art to be CP is if it's portraying a prepubescent child, because other than that, you can't really tell whether it's a teenager or a young adult, even with the whole canon age thing, because, at the end of the day, it's super subjective, and even then, teenagers aren't really included in it, meaning you can draw a teenager in sexual situations as long as that teenager is fictional, and it's not going to be considered CP, because that's not how that works.
That is
1704 to 2025. Mushroom Girl. This content is subjective and hard to prosecute despite it not being illegal. Graceful's point, this content isn't subjective. I didn't come here to debate the fucking justice system. Grace. Before tackling how Grace screwed up here, he changes what he's trying to say while speeding up Mushroom Girl because she's yapping in order to in post discredit her viewpoint and make it seem as if she's saying nothing important, despite her explaining the complexity of the legal system and the nuance this can have. Grace this entire time was talking about how this is content that's not legal, content that you'll get in trouble for, and him saying that he didn't come here to debate the justice system is just absurd when again he brought this up.
Technically,
but it's not debatable because it's illegal.
No.
Dude, you brought up legality, and now you don't want to talk about it? And it was the main point of your argument. Less the morality of drawing this content, but the legality of it. Mushroom Girl is right. It's not just black and white because courts have complex cases about if someone did their specific crime, and in this odd case to determine whether or not the person owning this strange material should be in trouble, they'd have to discuss whether or not this content's illegal, not based on a fictional character's age, but based on how the character is designed. That's why this isn't as black and white as how old is the character, and that's why if you, I don't know, drew something NSFW of Android 21 from Dragon Ball Z on model despite her technically being under 10 years old, nobody cares and you wouldn't get in trouble for that. But if you drew someone like Kana, that's definitely not legal. This is why Lolly is mostly about characters that are designed to look like children as opposed to being mostly about the age of the characters. And even then, what you think about if a character qualifies for that is inherently subjective, not objective in some circumstances, since the characters can be designed in basically any way. This is what she's talking about when she says, oh, this actually, isn't CP because of this and that. And if a character is, let's say, 12 and they look a little older, like they could be 18 or 19, then it's not going to be considered. Because to Mushroom Girl, the age isn't black and white, and to Grace, it is black and white, as it's clear that they probably have differing definitions of what Lala even is. Mushroom literally says that sometimes a character can be a child, but not. Lolly, and that contradicts what Graceful's getting at during this whole quote-unquote debate. That's also part of why this is such a horrible discussion. They didn't agree upon definitions for words so that they can both know exactly what they're arguing for. And when it comes to this weird content, I'd expect this to be more of a morality-based debate with some facts thrown in to prove some points. Probably the worst kind of debate, but still, that's what I'd expect. Of course, by what Graceful believes, it's always illegal content, but that should be an element that's taken into consideration as opposed to the main argument. Since, as we'll see later on, Mushroom Girl pretty easily beats him on this whole legality aspect.
Being illegal,
I think people should give a shit that people are sexualizing minors.
Well, cool, I guess.
It's not sexualizing real minors, but the problem is you're sexualizing minors and you're making it seem like it's okay to sexualize children.
It's just you keep repeating that and not giving an actual argument.
Because why do I need to give more of an argument than that?
Because the children don't exist. What else do I have to say to you? And plus,
okay.
It's so fucking subjective. What is and isn't CP based on a million different factors. And
your only argument is that it's fiction, and that's why it's okay.
Well, no, I'm giving other arguments, but you're basically putting your fingers in your ears because, oh, that's too many big words for me.
No,
2130 to 2205. Grace, why do I need more than an argument than that? Because the children don't exist. And Grace, your only argument is that it's fiction. Mushroom, I'm giving other arguments. First, Grace asking why he needs more than an argument than that makes sense on the surface level. Morally, yes, it's wrong to draw perfect content in the context discussed and set in the video, but when you think about it, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to say to someone who thinks it's not an issue. My second big issue with this debate is that it shouldn't have even happened. Morality-centered debates that masquerade as logical ones usually just become screaming matches, since it's unlikely that your morals on things will change through conversation, especially since these are both teenagers with pretty flawed reasons for why they believe what they believe. Plus, they're looking at this very differently. Grace attempts to explain why he believes what he believes almost purely on morals alone and some random stuff he saw, and Mushroom comes at this from a logical standpoint. She believes, why should people judge someone for enjoying content even if that content's gross to them? And any kind of content has the right to exist, and her main beliefs behind that are the fact that no real children are being harmed, and overall people should be allowed to make whatever they want. Grace just thinks this content shouldn't exist based mostly off of his own moral reasons and US law. Grace is also completely wrong about her not giving any other arguments beside it's just fiction. She talks about how a lot of the time you wouldn't get in trouble for this content because there are more pressing crimes, and backed it up by explaining that courts won't just immediately arrest you for having that content. Or how this gross content's subjective and how it doesn't really increase people's urges for being pedophilic, incesty, or whatever. Or she thinks you should be able to create and enjoy whatever you want, however you want. And again, I disagree with so much of what Mushroom Girl is saying. Even though I believe you should be able to create whatever kind of story or drawing you want, I also believe that others have the right to judge you for it, and you should be punished if it's depicting something as horrible as CP, even if it's not hurting anyone. What a person creates can say so much about them as well, and it's unreasonable to just not judge someone for either creating or enjoying lolly content. But despite all of this, she's still right sometimes. Mushroom says he's basically putting his fingers in his ears because, oh, that's too many big words for me, and he calls it yapping since he's a brain-rotted retard who can't listen to reasons that go against what he thinks is right. These aren't simple concepts, Grace. It's not black and white. There are reasons as to why Mushroom Girl believes what she believes, and his lack of listening or attempting to really fight her points is a third reason why I find this debate to be so horrible. It's one-sided. Mushroom Girl's actually listening to Grace and explaining why she disagrees with points he has, while Grace doesn't offer the same thing. And this clearly isn't a joke either. Grace barely makes any jokes throughout the whole thing, even if he says that it's a bit or something. What's the bit? If we look at an actual joke debate, which was Moomin's with people who were mad at him because he said the word retard and he uses slurs, it's clear that he actually doesn't care.
It's kind of fucking annoying, but she can't control it. That's not nothing to make fun of her for.
This is not about her list! What is this about? What is this about? What is this about? Something about, like, no, I think somebody mocked her about the fucking, like, list, but I don't, like, really care.
What's so LMAO about somebody having a lisp?
I don't really care. Like, I laughed about it, sure, but really, I just don't even care. Like, it's just, don't fucking pay attention. Honestly,
I pay attention. I'm trying to pay attention, but it's just too much to pay attention on. You add memes every 5 fucking.
He doesn't really attempt to make any serious points, and his lack of care in comparison to people who do care and got angry over nothing is hilarious. Here, Grace isn't listening to Mushroom Girl, and though I believe that his stance is way more understandable than Mushroom's weirdly logical stance of it's not hurting anyone, so why care, he delivers it in an absolutely atrocious way. It's not even an entertaining 2-hour watch of trolling. Him not understanding why he has to argue his point more in depth and him simplifying everything Mushroom Girl says to it's just fiction is proof of that, and we're just 22 minutes in.
You're just yapping so much. It's something you could say in a few fucking words.
No, I literally have been trying to explain to you how this works from a legal perspective.
Does Mushroom Girl think she's a lawyer or something? What the fuck?
Since you want to talk about how illegal it is,
I didn't say, okay, let me explain something. Actual child porn, right? Actual child porn, like not illustrated, will make you go to jail longer than lolicon, right? I agree.
Yeah.
Lolicon shouldn't be, but as this like same standards as actual child, but it is still considered child under law, and it still is sexualizing minors as a whole, and it isn't okay.
Okay, I don't know what to say other than you. Listen,
I don't know what to say here, so I'm about to yap on about something that's totally irrelevant.
2253 to 2322. Mushroom Girl at a loss for words. Grace, she's gonna yap about something irrelevant. More proof that Grace doesn't understand anything about what he's saying. Her going in depth into why she thinks that he's wrong on certain points, or an attempt to explain why certain things are more nuanced and complex than he thinks, like what's classified as illegal material fictionally, or that courts don't really care about the fictional numerical age of a character, is seen as irrelevant, because to him it's black and white. And truly, if the point of this wasn't to have a conversation, then why even let her explain anything? There's barely an attempt to ever be funny. As I said, it's just almost 2 hours of dribble from Grace, and highly morally disagreeable arguments from Mushroom. Mushroom honestly shouldn't even have agreed to this whole thing, as she lost part of her lifespan arguing with an idiot.
but no drawing can give consent. Because
Okay, but the character can't give consent.
The character could very well give consent.
How?
You have to ask the creator of the character.
Oh my god. No.
Yes.
Okay, okay, Hatsune Miku, right? 16 years old.
Yes.
Can they consent?
Well, from a character canon standpoint, first of all, doesn't have a personality. She's quite literally meant to be a blank slate to do whatever you want with.
Alright, but I'm telling. Okay, what the fuck? No, I was asking from her age standpoint. Can she consent?
I don't. Again, she could have.
I'm telling you. I'm asking you a very simple yes or no question. Can she consent? As a 16-year-old, can she consent? You didn't hear what her point was going to be. It was going to be that what if Hatsune Miku had the mental capacity of an adult? What if a minor had a mental capacity of an adult? Does that make it okay for adults to sexualize them? Does it make it okay for adults to sleep with them? No.
No, I guess, but no, but
that's my point. There's not more factors.
Wait,
the factor is she's underage and she can't give consent.
Wait, what about the 1,000-year-old lolly thing? Because first of all, if
that's okay. That's just fucking weird. That's just fucking weird, and it's clearly trying to use children and making children trying to look sexual, like sexualizing children.
No, let me explain. So, from a character standpoint, if this character has been alive for 1,000 years or whatever the fuck, then she can consent. And also, like the character can consent.
I understand what you're trying to say.
No,
you're trying to say they can consent, and just because they look like a child, then.
Weird. You want to know what I find weird? Foot fetishes. That doesn't mean I'm going around calling people a foot fetish.
All right, listen.
Degenerates.
Listen. Can you listen?
Sure.
Lolicon isn't always, oh my god, it looks like a child, but she's actually 1,000 years old. No, it's not always that. Most of the time, it's children drawn sexually. And it's still fucking really weird for a 1,000-year-old fucking thing to look like a child and make them drawn sexually.
I also think that's weird.
So then why are you supporting it? Why are you supporting something that you find weird? But you are supporting it.
No, I'm arguing it's
right. You literally said Lolly was okay on a call.
Okay, maybe. What do you mean by, if you mean okay as in I like it, then no, but I do think it's okay from a moral standpoint.
How do you find it morally okay to sexualize children, though?
2349 to 2641. Grace, can Hatsune Miku... Okay, bro. Can Hatsune Miku consent since she's canonically 16? Mushroom Girl, it's more complex than that. What about 1,000-year-old lollies? And, Grace, why are you supporting it? Mushroom Girl, I don't. I just think it has a right to exist. This is mostly why I dislike the legality perspective when it comes to these fictional characters. First of all, in a weird-ass debate like this, why is the general American age of 18 more important than countries in Europe or anywhere else in the world where it's lower or higher? Depends on where you're at. Could have been a response from Mushroom Girl, since the character design is more important than any other factor in this context. She also attempts to explain that since these characters are fictional, again, way more factors could be at play. Again, Android 21 is less than 10 and Cell from Dragon Ball Z is like 6. Is it then illegal to draw these characters in an NSFW context, despite the fact that they're technically well under the age of consent? No, because the factors at play are the fact that these are both characters that are not only androids, but ones with adult minds. It's not as black and white as it is in real life, as the only factor at play is the age of the person in real life. The fact that this is way more complex than real life, and the fact that Grace doesn't understand that, is why he can't really argue against Mushroom Girl's point of the 1,000-year-old lollies thing. Just so sad, oh my god. He finds it weird, yes, but by his own argument, he's justifying that because he doesn't take design and other factors into account, and therefore he must change his stance. This is why he loses so horribly here. About the second part of this, his misunderstanding of her neutrality towards the subject as support. As I said earlier, people believe that since Mushroom Girl is arguing simply for the right of this content to exist and for people to not judge it or those who like it, they therefore believe that she likes this content. She doesn't, and she states that fact in this debate, but she believes in freedom of expression, which covers this very content. As logically to her, it hurts nobody, and it's fictional material. Grace created 4 videos in total about Mushroom Girl, and yet he still somehow believes that she supports this content. I believe this shows an insane inability to understand very basic complexity when it comes to making points and opinions, which is yet another reason why this is one of the worst debates ever. Graceful just isn't open to new ideas and ways to disagree with them. He plugs his ears and screams that he's the victor at one point too, when overall this was an entirely worthless endeavor aside from plenty of subscribers that'll only watch your tiny community drama videos as opposed to creative fun or insightful content. I think Graceful's initial response to my comment said enough about him. Stop yapping, yapper. He's a brain-rotted 15-year-old that'll remember this whole Mushroom Girl thing and say that was retarded in a few years. I've done that for so many things when I was 15, and I guarantee you that'll happen.
No, I was going to say that child is fictional. Child is not realistic.
Yes, what the fuck? It can happen. It is realistic because it can happen.
But well, what?
It is realistic because it can happen in real life.
Yeah, let me give you some examples.
There could be. It's a realistic scenario, and that's why it's disgusting.
No, let me.
And illegal. And it sexualizes children.
Oh, it being realistic, but these characters often have do not look like real people. They look like they look like anime characters.
Do you know why what do you think anime characters were supposed to look like? Like, what are they supposed to resemble?
They're supposed to resemble cats, actually.
No.
What?
Cats? Cats? No, they're supposed to resemble humans.
Well, yes, but their faces and the way that they express are meant to represent cats. Like, you can look it up. The anime Japanese art style is meant to represent cats.
But not all the time is it the anime art style.
And yes, they are meant to.
And it's still a fucking child and considered a human.
It's not considered a human.
Yes, it is, though. It is considered human. Just because it has features of a cat doesn't make it less human. It still has a lot of features that are human.
Well, yes, but they don't look realistic. Like, the skin is.
Okay, but the scenario. Okay, the fucking child itself doesn't have to look realistic. The scenario itself can be realistic, and that's why it's bad.
It's not realistic.
The scenario? Give me a scenario where a child is being sexualized where it cannot be realistic.
If it's done using some sort of magic or
Oh my god.
That thing that can't happen in real life. What if it's Vore of a child? Because you can't swallow
lore?
Vore,
Can you type it? Because I can't understand.
VORE.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
It's basically a very common fetish where people
What the actual
how they're
fuck? I
old.
just looked it up.
Yeah, you shouldn't have, but
This was probably one of the funniest parts of this video, I'm not gonna lie. Unironically funny from fucking Mushroom Girl.
it's where you eat someone whole. What if it's boiled out of a minor?
I think that
You
would be
can't do that in real life.
disgusting, but
But it's not realistic, so it can't be harmful by your logic.
okay, but what if it was done by
2748 to 3040. Grace, this fictional content is realistic and it actually happens, and that's why it's a problem. Mushroom, it's not always realistic, they're usually cartoons, and what about Vore? Before I tackle this, I need to talk about how he tries to shift this by saying that she brought up Vore magic out of nowhere, when it was an example of unrealistic sexual art that can depict lolly characters. Whether or not this gross content is realistic or not doesn't really matter, as we're talking about fictional media. In most cases, it's probably anime or again cartoon characters. It being realistic isn't the issue. The issue is the fact that a child is being drawn in this way. He also clearly shifted his point to this since the legality thing was shattered. Grace does plenty of point shifting. First about how this evil content can make people's urges worse, and then it was about how kids could maybe see it, and then it was legality, and now we're at the point where because it's realistic, it's wrong. And then it shifts to, it's wrong because the scenario is realistic. Graceful's age is important here because he can't actually understand why any of this is wrong on a deeper level because, again, he's 15. He just copies reasons that he's heard from probably YouTubers and other people. What I'm getting at is that he knows that this is wrong, but he literally cannot understand why, and that's painfully clear because of his point shifting. A topic like this between two people this age will always be terrible, and this conversation showcases that with flying colors. Mushroom Girl doesn't understand why you should probably judge someone for drawing fictional child characters sexually, and so she doesn't judge people who like that, or people who make it, and Graceful doesn't deep down understand why this content is so wrong and evil. So we get a debate with someone with a strange albeit thought out stance, and someone with an understandable but unthought out stance. Either way, Grace has done and is doing far worse than Mushroom due to all the point shifting and plenty of other factors I've already highlighted. Again, notice how Mushroom will tackle and talk about anything Grace brings up in depth, which is seen by each and every retarded Grace fan as yapping. And notice how Graceful changes the point most of the time after not listening to her.
Maybe, but not the main point of the drawing, which is the part where they're being eaten.
Why the fuck are we talking about Vore?
Because it disproves your argument.
But no, it doesn't, because if it's a fucking child naked, there is still a possibility that the child's naked.
And plus,
there can be realistic parts to a non-realistic thing. And that's why it's disgusting.
But the scenario still isn't realistic, and that's what you said had to be realistic.
I didn't say that. Okay, the scenario has many parts to it, right? It's a story. It has many parts to it. Does it not? It's not just one set thing. Like, it can have a main idea, but there's still more stuff added onto it. Like, a child being naked in someone's fucking stomach is still sexualizing the minor. Which can very much happen. And it does happen.
But, like, you keep adding qualifications also. Like, you're like, oh, well, it's real. Well, it has to be realistic. Oh, well, it's illegal. So, like, it's... I
was stating factual stuff to make it...
Well, no,
what?
You just keep adding qualifications. Like,
but it is illegal.
Yeah, well, first you were arguing, oh, well, it has to be... Well, yeah, well, it's illegal.
This motherfucker talked about their own points, that it has to be realistic to be considered CP. What is she talking about?
3233 to 3356. Graceful. Why are we talking about Vore? Mushroom, because it disproves your argument, and Mushroom, you keep adding qualifiers. Graceful. I was just stating factual stuff. First, if you are actually paying attention at all, you realize that he literally lies about how she brought up the point of it having to be realistic, because he literally brought it up.
For example, there's
right, but child porn is realistic, and it actually happens. So that's why it's a problem. There could be, it's a realistic scenario, and that's why it's disgusting. This motherfucker talked about their own points, that it has to be realistic to be considered CP.
This is a fully dishonest attempt to make himself not look like an idiot or fool, and people ate it right up. Plenty of comments say stuff about how she brought up Vore out of nowhere despite it literally being there to disprove his argument. This was actually one of Mushroom Girl's best, most clearly defining points against anything Graceful has said. She brings up Vore for a reason, as again, it was to disprove the it has to be realistic argument, because it absolutely does. For full clarity's sake, he doesn't directly say that this material has to be realistic. He says that because it's realistic and because it portrays realistic scenarios, it's wrong. That can be about so many other different factors as well, but in this context, it's wrong because, as Mushroom Girl says, you can't eat somebody alive and then see the inside of their stomach. That's not realistic at all, and that is why it disproves his point. Mushroom Girl understandably sees this point kind of as it has to be realistic, which I understand, but that is actually a mess up on her part. Grace going with this weird line of argumentation that not that it must be realistic, but the fact that it's realistic is a problem with it, doesn't make any sense. Is it any better if it's a cartoon or if something is happening that can't happen in real life? No, because at the end of the day, this material is still very immoral and evil. Then he changes his point again to talk about how scenario has many parts to it, and he talks about how in post she actually brings up the realism argument as if he didn't just do that a few minutes ago. This blatant sad attempt at, I hate this word in videos like this, but gaslighting in post shows that he understood that she beat him on this point, and in an attempt to not look stupid, he dishonestly called his own terrible point hers. Is this what someone would do for a bit or a joke? It's sad that a dishonest edit had to be made because he was consistently losing against someone who thinks that it's okay to draw disgusting content. Yet another reason as to why this is one of the worst debates I've ever seen, and this is why I want to go through the first 45 minutes of this debate and possibly tackle the rest of it in a future video. It's genuinely interesting and shocking how horribly this all went down, and most people agree with how Grace went about this, because they disagree with Mushroom Girl. Guys, you can agree with someone's morals, but realize they went about defending them in a terrible way.
Dude, I've given you many points on why it's... How? I've given you many points on why fucking Lolicon is not okay, and your only point is that it's fiction, and I've explained why it being fiction is also bad.
That's not my only point. I've been making counter arguments towards your point, towards all of your points this entire time.
Right, but I've also just rebutted them. It's easy.
Well, your rebuttal isn't good though. If your rebuttal
how is my rebuttal not good? You stuttered multiple times and you couldn't answer multiple things, so you went onto a whole different conversation.
No, it's almost like I was thinking.
But you literally sidetrack. That's what you do. You sidetrack. You talk about one thing, and then when I rebuttal it, you talk about another thing, and then I rebuttal it, and then you talk about another thing, and then I rebuttal again.
Me bringing up something that you have not brought up before that disproves your argument is not me going off topic.
Right, because it is though, because.
No, it's not, because I'm rebuttaling you.
But I'm rebutting your rebuttals though. That's the thing though, and you keep you have to keep bringing up more and more stuff because I'm making good points.
That's how a rebuttal works.
I'm making good points, and that's why you keep bringing up more stuff.
Your good points being, well, it's icky and it's
no, it's not. Have you heard what I've been saying?
Yes, and most of it is literally amounts to the same thing.
3413 to 3544. Grace, how's my rebuttal not good? You've stuttered multiple times. Mushroom Girl, it's almost like I was thinking. A rebuttal is simply a piece of evidence or an example that is said to contradict an opposing one. She has consistently done this. I've already explained how she has, but he calls it going off topic, even though she's talking about an ideal that's related to this very topic, and has done so every time. He also highlights her stuttering as if that matters. When people actually think of arguments or examples for their points they believe in, they'll be thinking. Of course, Mushroom Girl isn't going to instantly reply with her rebuttal because it takes a second to think of something to reply with. This isn't a point, it's more so an attack on the fact that she won't reply fast enough, when all that means in a conversational context is that the other person is thinking. I believe that Graceful is either so retarded that he doesn't realize the fact that it takes time to think of points, something he's actually done in this debate if you've been paying attention, or if he's dishonestly attempting to change what she's getting at this entire time. He also projects onto her the fact that she's been sidetracking the entire time, when again, as I've highlighted, that's something he's been doing and has done for this entire conversation.
Okay. You think that it's subjective to find like this disgusting, right?
Wait, what?
Do you yourself find Lolicon disgusting?
Yes, personally.
So then why are you defending people who consume lolicon and make lolicon?
Because I, as an artist...
And I, as a Discord mod, think that lolicon is okay because it's not real children.
believe in the right for people to draw whatever they want as long as it is not causing direct harm.
3548 to 3629. Graceful. You think this content is disgusting, right? Mushroom. Yeah, I just think that people should be able to draw whatever they want. Yet another example of Graceful misunderstanding Mushroom's argument and her personal stance on disgusting material. She's not supportive of the material. She simply believes it has a right to exist and others shouldn't be judged for enjoying it.
It is causing harm, and I've explained how it's causing harm. It's influencing other people to think that it's okay to sexualize children.
That could apply to so many
Dude,
other
okay, let me explain something. I don't give a fuck about the incest shit. I don't give a fuck about the self-harm shit or the gore. I don't give a fuck about that. The main thing I have a problem with is the child shit.
So you're personally disgusted by this content?
No, it's not personally. It's not a personal disgust. Like I mean, yeah, I'm disgusted by it, but it's illegal.
Yeah.
There's many good points on why it shouldn't be allowed to be drawn.
But those points have easy rebuttals to it, and those rebuttals...
But the thing is, you have to bring up new shit every time.
3634 to 3718. Graceful. But it is causing harm. It can influence people. And I don't care about the incest or gore or self-harm. Fucking crazy. Mushroom. So you're personally disgusted by this content. Graceful only cares about the child-related stuff because it disgusts him the most, despite the fact that by his logic the incest stuff, the gore, the self-harm, and everything else horrible showcased by Profic content could influence people into partaking in those activities. Again, why is this the only thing he cares about? Is incest not bad enough? Or is self-harm not a bad enough thing too? And his point about how it could influence people to think that it's okay to sexualize children. I've already talked about this point way earlier, but the short end of it is that it'll only really influence people who are very young and impressionable. That's why I only semi-agree with this. For example, if you see something gay online and you're straight, that's not going to influence you to be gay unless you deep down are curious. Or if you've seen advertisements for Taco Bell and you hate Taco Bell, that's not going to influence you to buy Taco Bell. Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm bringing up points that are contextually related to the one you have in order to better explain my point. If someone's not like 4 years old and constantly consuming this content, then they're most likely not going to be influenced by it, especially if that thing is as disgusting as pedophilia or incest. People that are influenced by things like positively drawn profic, incest, are people that already like the idea of incest or deep down like it. People overall don't just see others drawing lolly and say, wow, I like this and it's okay, because most people already find it gross. Again, as I said earlier, grooming absolutely can happen, and that's why I'm in the middle of, yeah, this content can influence, and no it can't, as it's not just black and white. If we're talking about someone continually showing someone else self-harm content and glamorizing it over the course of months to normalize that behavior, then Profic content absolutely has, will, and can be used to influence how others think. But again, nearly 40 minutes into the video, and this understandable point against what Mushroom thinks is never brought up, and instead, Grace just believes that since this content is allowed to exist, it'll influence people to believe that it's actually okay.
Fuck you, I have proof right here, you're fucking, I don't even know.
Wait, do you think I'm a fucking pedophile?
No, I don't think you're a fucking pedophile, I just think you're a weirdo, I'm gonna be honest. I think you have very bad takes. I think you're a weirdo.
Cool, but that doesn't, why did you just say that then why did you just say that I'm proof that... I
said you're proof that people influencing the shit to think it's okay, because you started off a year ago, right? Saying,
yeah,
this shit, that doesn't matter. No, that does not matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. You were 15 years old. You were 15 years old. You knew how bad pro shipping was and how bad it is to draw children. You were misinformed? No, I think you're misinformed right now. I think you're misinformed right now. You had good points. You had good points on why pro shipping and pro fiction is bad. And then you suddenly switch a month later, like, no, a month ago, right? Today.
No, I switched over the course of over the course of almost 2 years, because I I began healing.
Wait, hold on. Can I ask you a question real quick? It's a genuine question because I've been getting a lot of answers. How old are you?
I'm 16, about to be 17 next month.
Okay. I just want to get that out of the way.
I was 15 at the time. I think I was like 14, about to be 15, but I'll just say I'm 15 for the sake of the...
You want to know how old I am?
How old?
I'm 15. I'm 15 and I know better. I know not to allow children to be sexualized.
Honey, give it a couple years.
Oh, honey, give it a couple years and you think CP is okay. Yeah, because that's how that works.
Give it a couple.
3828 to 4024. Graceful, you are an example of being influenced. Mushroom, my opinions were formed over the course of literally like 2 years. Whether or not it took 2 years or 2 months for Mushroom to come up with why she believes what she believes doesn't matter at all. Opinions and views are usually constructed from hearing what others have to say, how you grew up, your values, how you see the world, and a bunch of other stuff. Mushroom hearing other people's opinions and combining it with her own feelings to create her stance of neutrality on pro-fic content doesn't mean that pro-fic content itself influenced her. This is actually how every single human being on Earth grows their viewpoints. They listen to others and decide how they want to feel based on things they've heard, evidence they've consumed, and life experience. Age definitely is important here, don't get me wrong. When you get older you simply think better in all ways as you aren't developing anymore and you gain more life experience, which can change your own opinions and feelings on certain subjects. Graceful simplifying all of that and saying that pro-fic content itself influenced Mushroom while also not even knowing her is retarded.
About 2 years.
But you did. You didn't make a whole fucking... You made one video about pro shipping and then you made another a year later.
Shut up. Shut up. Over the course of many months, slowly I matured as a person.
I think you dematured as a person.
Please shut up. Please shut up. I slowly over the course of these months, my brain literally grew and matured physically because that's how
it didn't grow that much to where you're like, you know what, child porn, okay, child, okay.
Shut up, please. Can you keep your mouth shut for like more than 3 seconds?
Oh, I got you. Explain your point.
Yeah, and I took in new points of view. People weren't telling me, hey, Lolicon is super based. In fact, a lot of the people who I hang around with still do not think that Lolicon is inherently immoral. But I did get other points of view from people who actually are not on either side of the discussion, and they explained their view just on fiction in general, and I got a lot of outside views, I got inside views, in general, and I also looked at my own creations, and I was like, I have been, all this time, I have been very anti-censorship, and I've always had that view in my head, but I always, because of antis just kind of telling me pro-shipping is bad.
I just want to say real quick, have you seen that bit? I had 400 subscribers at the time. Now I have over 600. Over 600 subscribers. I've gained over 300 since that one video. I want to thank everyone who subscribed. I want to thank everyone who watches these videos. I appreciate all of you.
And not really explaining anything. Well, I would always try and think, I would always try and, in my head, justify all of this and how my, I guess you could call it, cognitive dissonance. And I was just trying so hard to, put the pieces together in my head to really, how does this anti-ship thing fit into my views? Because it must be bad, right? So then, over the course of these months, after making my video talking about how pro-shippers are bad, I slowly, this was a slow thing, this wasn't a switch, automatically, one day I woke up and said, hey, I'm a pro-shipper now. I, thought about how, I thought that it's not a fucking big deal if people make fiction that I think is fucking weird, and that I think, is gross, and that I would never want to even look at ever. And I think that's fine, and I'm going to live my life with this new perspective, and argue for the existence of all
I have people in my comments telling me how it personally affects them and affects a lot of other people too.
4102 to 4335. Mushroom explaining how she's changed as a person over time due to reasons I've already explained. Graceful, people are saying that it affected them in my comments. Again, as usual, Graceful allows her to speak but doesn't actually listen. He in post interrupts her with some little blurb about how he's like, thanks for the subscriber, and then speeds her explanation up as if it doesn't matter again. She pretty much explained how she's grown as a person through years based on others' opinions and life experiences, and how it wasn't just some instantaneous switch. It's exactly what I've explained previously, but Graceful hungers so heavily for that debate W that he doesn't listen and searches for people in his comments that prove his way of thinking as proof. My main point is that, again, Graceful doesn't listen to a lick of what Mushroom Girl says, and that's why he lost so hard. If you actually pay attention to the video, you realize just how dense he is and how black and white he sees this complex topic as. Mushroom Girl is also at fault because she stayed in Graceful's circus for so long, but that's another discussion. I'll talk more about this commenter's experience and how it relates to the debate after this clip.
Here's the thing though, we should be...
Are you really about to explain why this is a one-off thing?
No, I'm about to explain why this isn't the fault of pro shippers.
How is it not the fault of pro shippers to go around and tell this person it's okay?
Wait, did pro shippers... Hold on.
Well, people as a, people went around and said, well, I'm guessing they're pro shippers because going around and saying that this stuff is okay and to influence it.
Did pro shippers specifically go up to them?
I don't know. I'm not them, but I'm assuming people did go up to them and were like, yeah, this shit's cool and based. And it caused them to...
We only have based on what things... So, okay.
What they literally said...
No, I'm gonna talk about this both with my understanding of the situation and what you have to say on it. So, from my view, it seems like this person... as a young child, got a hold of this content and it influenced how they thought about reality. And the thing with that is that, yes, I do agree that the pro-ship content did cause this child to think that this was okay. But the solution to that is, again, to put content warnings on this content and mature warnings that say, hey, children, do not look at this. This is not only porn, it's not only like sexual content, but it's
do you think every degenerate, as I said in my video, is going to put a content warning? Either way, do you think a child who sees this content warning is like, maybe I'm not gonna look at this? Because that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen at all.
Yes, it does.
I think we can all agree that children are curious and will probably look at anything they see that says, don't look at this.
I do listen to content warnings.
Majority of the time.
No.
Majority of the time. Yo, I'm telling you right now, majority of the time, people still open that stuff as minors.
Well, then it's not, at that point, that's not the fault of the...
It is, because they're creating this art.
But that could apply... So wait, is creating pornography in general bad to you?
Creating child porn is bad.
No, pornography in general.
If they're both consenting adults, I mean, whoever's in that video or picture is a consenting adult, then I don't find any problem with it.
But what if children find it? Because children...
Then I don't think children should be able to have access to it, but that's not going to stop them to getting access.
Oh, yes, exactly. Thank you for understanding.
But your point was, why...
4430 to 4719. Grace, what if kids find this? Again, Mushroom Girl, then the creator should put a warning on it, and if they get to it, it's not the fault of the creator. Grace, but a warning wouldn't stop them. They shouldn't draw this content. Mushroom Girl, then is drawing normal porn bad in general? Grace, a warning wouldn't stop them, but I think it's okay. There's a lot here. First of all, it's unknown whether or not Profic fans told the person in Graceful's comment section that the relationship between adults and children are okay, and therefore the point's mute. Since this is a debate about why specifically Profic is bad and those who consume Profic content are bad. This doesn't discredit this person's experience, it's simply the fact of we don't know enough for this to matter. Secondly, the warning thing. Mushroom Girl is semi-right about it. Kids obviously shouldn't be seeing sexual content, so the way to solve that is sort of with a warning. Though it's flawed for obvious reasons. Grace is correct when he says that no kid's actually going to listen to that warning and they're going to see it anyway. But again, why Mushroom Girl is semi-right about this is because at that point, it's literally not the Profic drawer's fault. Of course, this isn't as black and white as most things are in this conversation. There's a lot of nuance that can be a factor. For example, if someone created an SFW, Profic, or even pornographic content with a majority child fan base, and they publicly say they do that on an alt or even the same account, then that warning may as well be pointless because all your fans are kids, if you generally cater to them. This is the reason why people like Rocky Raccoon or Pumpkin the Gentleman are hated. It's because they mix their mostly child fanbase with gooners, since they both draw NSFW content and kids content. and they don't make their separate accounts that post their NSFW content distinct enough. In this case, if a profic fan made this content and had a child fan base, even with a warning, it's still their fault due to cultivating a fan base like that. If you want to make art like that and you have a child fan base, then don't link, post it on main, or talk about it on your platform, right? This possibly could have been a point for why profic is so bad, but Grace never taps into something like this since it's all black and white in his mind. So many factors could be at play here, but as usual it's boiled down to, don't draw it at all, what if a kid sees it? Grace also beats his own point with hypocrisy, because by his logic as shown by Mushroom Girl, he should also think that drawing normal pornographic content is wrong. But he doesn't. It's an unintended, none of it's okay argument, which is a whole different thing that he disagrees with due to uncareful wording. This has been so much, and this video is one of the worst that I've seen. That's why the editing isn't as great as my main channel videos or my previous FNAF World video. I'm busy in college and there are plenty of other artistic or review-worthy things that I want to do. If anyone fully watched this video, even as background noise, thanks. It took a long time to make. I'll be posting in Graceful server to troll a bit because that'd be hilarious, and hey, even if this video gets like 4 views, I had so much fun dissecting what exactly is wrong with this video point by point. Definitely subscribe for more content like this, and I'll choose someone else random to attack. Starting arguments over non-serious shit is fun. Go do it. And no, Graceful, none of this was yapping. This is what it looks like when you properly dissect someone's points point by point, talk about them, and all the other stuff. I doubt that Graceful is actually going to finish this video. I just want to non-scriptedly say that, yeah, you know, Graceful is an idiot, and, you know, I hope that you... Now, here's the thing, I may not be the biggest YouTuber on my main, I'm actually smaller than Graceful, but here's the thing about me, I actually make content that I find really fun and engaging, and also, I enjoy talking about different topics, like my actual personal interests, while Graceful is now going to be locked into making the same shit, basically, that Lyle Convoy made, or whatever. He's gonna be stuck in this weirdo cesspool of this tiny little community, this tiny little retarded community that doesn't critically think, doesn't think about anything. That's what Graceful has done to his channel. There might be some success, but this is some of the worst kind of content that you can make if you want to be a YouTuber. Unless you really do enjoy dissecting or arguing with people. Or, you know, if you're really good at it and you get a lot of subscribers and money from it, then I would understand it. Kind of, but Graceful's at 1K subscribers, and most people who make this kind of content don't really end up with more than 30K subscribers. He's now just another... he's a clone now. He's one of these... People don't necessarily follow him for who he is, but they follow him because they agree baseline with what he does and what he says. There's nothing deep about anything that Graceful is doing, and I've seen so many different channels like this, and it's kind of sad, honestly. Hopefully, maybe one day, Graceful can, you know, stop doing this and actually talk about something that's meaningful, something that he can care about. For me personally, I don't really care about getting subscribers. I just enjoy getting a response. I just enjoy fucking with people sometimes, and I really enjoyed breaking this apart. Again, if you really enjoyed this video, there will be more content like this and completely random videos. I will not be like one of these weird commentary, like minor channels, tiny little channels that talk about, oh my god, like new drama of the week. I don't want to do that. I instead want to piss people off and make retarded videos like that for that world video. So yeah, this has kind of been a tangent, and it's kind of less related to the actual debate, which is what this is about, and more about what Graceful just did to himself channel wise. But yeah, you know, Graceful, if you somehow made it to this point without calling everything that I've done yapping, then yeah, man, I hope that you're happy with this new audience that won't watch any of your other content. Instead of trying to build a channel slowly that talk about whatever you want to, you instead blow up really fast, and now you're stuck. You're stuck making these videos, these more Pegasus type videos about fucking Mushroom Girl of all people. This is who you're focused on, and yet, even though you made 4 videos, you did terribly in this whole thing. Just terribly. Just watching half of it is enough to know that you did fucking horrendously. I mean, hell, you didn't even watch your entire video. I watched like an hour and 15 minutes of this total. It's a fucking terrible video. This is embarrassing content, man. It really is. And the only thing saving you is that you had an agreeable point. You had the popular point, and therefore everyone is fucking CO clapping like retards, like, yeah, good job, Graceful, the big god. He won against Mushroom Girl because she stuttered. She didn't make any points. Cause you're creating a fan base of idiots. These niggas are stupid. Anyone who can critically think will see exactly what I saw. Maybe not go into as much detail, but they won't be entertained by this video. Because again, just because I agree with you doesn't mean you argued your point as well. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I might dissect another part of this video, I'm not sure. But, yeah, you know, Graceful, have fun talking about drama from tiny little creators for all of eternity now. You locked yourself into this shit, man. And it really sucks. I'm not gonna be your like #1 hater or anything. This has just been really fun. I want to actually talk about multiple channels. Maybe I'll talk about Graceful again if he does fucking horribly again in another debate or something, which would be very entertaining. But yeah, you know, All Star. Sorry, my tone is just so. I'm sorry, my tone is really excited because one, real life is going great right now, and two, I fucking love making this video. Oh my god, this was so fun. Like, holy shit. This whole thing was so fun. I've always wanted to do something like this. Oh my god, this was great. But yeah, yeah, again, Graceful. I would never, even with 1K subscribers, I'd never want to be in your new predicament. Look at that EDP video, man. I mean, that shit's not doing good for a reason. You just cultivated an audience that only watches videos like that instead of content that you actually want to make. Probably content like that EDP thing. Probably content like the Chris Tyson thing. Probably stuff like that. It's kind of sad. Um, oh yeah, I also don't hate Graceful. I think he's just stupid. He's 15 and he'll probably grow up and be like, yeah, I was a bit retarded. There's no actual ill will that I have towards Graceful. This is all just a fun little debate. But yeah, man, I'm excited to see how you'll respond to this, if you'll respond to this, and all of that. So yeah, see you later. See you later if you want to subscribe and all that.